I'm Ed Kelley, editor of The Oklahoman. Barely 100 days into his job, and Barack Obama gets a chance to nominate a justice to the United States Supreme Court. To talk about this and why is Mark Green, national editorial writer for The Oklahoman and a frequent contributor here on News OK TV. Mark, as you know, these Supreme Court positions often are lifetime jobs. Why then is Associate Justice David Souter retiring?
Well, Ed, the long known story here in Washington was that David Souter never really liked being here. He once told a friend, and of course now it's public knowledge, that he had the best job in the worst city. He enjoys very much the law and so forth, but I think that he has longed for the green hills and forests of his native New Hampshire. And at 69, of course, there's a lot of conjecture because he hadn't spoken about it yet, but a lot of conjecture that he just felt like he's at a point in time in his life where if he was going to do something else, that now was the time to go. Otherwise, he's going to be here for the rest of his life. So I think that this guy is an avid runner and an outdoors type person, and was looking, I think, mainly to get back home. He's done 20 years almost, so it's not like he is just here for a little while and gone. He's put in a full stint.
That's true. Okay, so what kind of window then does President Obama have to nominate a replacement?
Well, Souter, the reports are saying that Souter is going to stay through the end of the current term, which would be somewhere in the June time frame, so another month or so. And then the next session of the court would convene in early October, the first week in October. So basically they got those months in between the summer months and before the fall to name a replacement. That's not a big window, especially when you consider that Congress will probably take most of August off, as they usually do. There's not a lot of time to get somebody through the vetting process and through the usual political chicanery that goes on, especially around a Supreme Court nominee. That's not a whole lot of time.
So there is a chance then that a replacement may not be seated on that first Monday in October when the court convenes for its new term.
It's possible. I mean, it really depends on what kind of nominee the President Obama sends up. If he goes for somebody who is what they would call confirmable, easily confirmed because they're fairly middle of the road or centrist, then the chances are better that they could have somebody seated or in place by the time the court convenes in the fall. If he goes for somebody who's a little more partisan, or that's probably the wrong word, but somebody who philosophically leans more to the liberal end of the spectrum than to the middle, then it'll be, he runs the risk of running into a Republican filibuster, and that would delay the nomination considerably.
Right. Does Justice David Souter leave any kind of a legacy, do you think?
Well, I think that Souter leaves kind of an interesting legacy in that he was nominated by a Republican president, the first President Bush, and was widely believed to be a solid conservative jurist when he was appointed to the Supreme Court. That's why Bush followed the advice of his then Chief of Staff, John Sununu, in picking David Souter. But very soon after Souter was in place on the court, he began to vote in cases more toward the liberal side, and now, 20 years later, he's firmly ensconced on the left end of that court, voting with the more liberal justices on the court. For example, in 1992, in a high-profile abortion case, Planned Parenthood versus Casey, Souter voted with the pro-abortion side of the court, which I think really shocked a lot of people, conservatives, who thought he was going to be more one of their guys. And I think that apart from individual votes like that one, the legacy that he leaves is how these kind of stealth nominees can come back and bite you in the rear end if you're not careful. Good
point. Well done, Mark. Thank you. Stay here on News OK for more coverage of this continuing story.